a familiar one, actually, from the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 13. No, it should be Luke 15.
What?
Luke 15. It is on there. There we go. Perfect. It's the 15th chapter, verses 11 through 32. Then he said, "There was once a man who had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, 'Father, I want right now what's coming to me.' So the father divided the property between them. It wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he had gone through all his money, there was a bad famine all through that country, and he began to hurt. He sat down with a citizen there who assigned him to his fields to slaughter the pigs. He was so hungry, he would have eaten the corn cobs and the pig slop, but no one would give him any. That brought him to his senses. He said, 'All those farm hands working for my father sit down to 3 meals a day, and here I am starving to death. I'm going back to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I've sinned against God. I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son. Take me on as a hired hand.' He got right up and went home to his father. When he was still a long way off, his father saw him. His heart pounded, he ran out, embraced him, and kissed him. The son started his speech, 'Father, I've sinned against God, I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son ever again.' But the father wasn't listening. He was calling to the servants, 'Quick, bring a clean set of clothes and dress him. Put the family ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Then get a grain-fed heifer and roast it. We're going to feast. We're going to have a wonderful time. My son is here, given up for dead and now alive, given up for lost and now found.' And they began to have a wonderful time. All this time his older son was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in. As he approached the house, he heard the music and dancing. Calling over one of the houseboys, he asked what was going on. He told him, 'Your brother came home. Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef, because he has him home safe and sound.' The older brother stalked off in an angry sulk and refused to join in. His father came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, 'Look how many years I've stayed here serving you, never giving you one moment of grief. But have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends?' Then this son of yours, who has thrown away your money on whores, shows up and you go all out with a feast.' His father said, 'Son, you don't understand. You're with me all the time, and everything that is mine is yours. But this is a wonderful time, and we had to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost, and he's found.'" A heartbroken dog whose owner died 2 months ago is missing her so much he is attending services at the Italian church where her funeral was held, patiently waiting for her to return, reports Nick Pisa of a London online news publication. Loyal Tommy, a 7-year-old German Shepherd, belonged to Maria Margarita Loki, 57, and had been her faithful companion after she found him abandoned in fields close to her home. Mrs. Loki adopted several strays that she found, but friends said she developed a particularly close affection for Tommy and would walk to church with him from her home every single day, where the priest would allow him to sit patiently at her feet. Following her death at San Donici, near Brindisi, Italy, a funeral service was held at which Tommy joined mourners, and since then, he has been a regular attender at the church, arriving on time when the bells ring out to mark the start of services. He continued this everyday mass schedule until falling ill just this last and eventually he died. Friends and neighbors say, though, that Tommy waited for months for Maria to return to him and finally decided it best to go to her. He was a faithful companion and friend and will be missed by Cy, and all the wives and children come together to make this one of the most hilarious yet ridiculous shows on television. The one thing the viewer rarely sees, though, is the family's undying faith and loyalty to their church. Show producers are reluctant to show very much of the cast's involvement in the church for fear that the ratings will plummet. You see, rednecks taking more breaks than actual work hours spent. Ones that decide to create their own water park by tying a tire swing to a backhoe bucket suspended over the water. Or decorating, in this case, House for Christmas with thousands of mismatched lights, some lit, some out. Now that sells. Not so much the church. Now, if you haven't had a chance to tune into this one-of-a-kind show, let me urge you to do so because it actually airs tonight at 7 o'clock Central Time on A&E. So you might want to see it if you've not been exposed before. So why these two stories and what on earth do they have to do with one another? Has the church gone to the dogs or ducks? Maybe, but not necessarily. But I do believe there are some similarities and interesting aspects to both that recent events have brought into our spotlight. For the past weeks, the world has watched in wonder after the Monday, February 11th, resignation of the 85-year-old Pope Benedict XVI. After all, the Pope is considered the spiritual leader of the more than 1.2 billion Catholics around the world and the most authoritative figure in all of Christendom. And then on Thursday, the 28th, millions of people all over the globe tuned in to see the Pope make his last reigning trip to his helicopter and be whisked away over the Roman skyline to the papal holiday retreat at Castel Gandolfo. There he will stay for the next few months until the new Pope has been selected. Then he will return to the Vatican to live a life of seclusion and prayer as Pope Emeritus. Being the first Pope to leave the papacy alive in 598 years raises a lot of questions, I should think. Was this really just a case of being too old and frail to do the job, or was there more to the story, such as the recently leaked documents alleging scandal at the very highest levels in the Vatican? Regardless, the resignation of this Pope brings the opportunity for Catholics in particular, but really all Christians, to redefine themselves and refashion their churches to more adequately address the problems of our times. On September 1st of 2012, Reuters reported that the former Archbishop of Milan and papal candidate, Cardinal Carlo Maria Martini, said the Catholic Church was 200 years out of date in his final interview before his death. Martini, once favored by Vatican progressives to succeed Pope John Paul II, and a prominent voice in the church until his death, also at the age of 85, gave a scathing portrayal of a pompous and bureaucratic church failing to move with the times. The church must admit